Stand next to a chimpanzee. At first glance, the difference seems obvious. It's covered in thick brown fur. You're almost completely bare. But here's the part that still confuses scientists. Counted every single hair follicle on both bodies, the numbers would be almost identical. Evolution didn't remove the follicles. It just switched them off. And even stranger, one patch refused to disappear. The beard? Why? To answer that, you have to go back roughly 2 million years, to a version of Earth that would kill most of us in an afternoon. Picture East Africa. The sun is brutal. There's no shade, no river nearby. Every breath feels like fire. And somewhere in that landscape, something began happening to our ancestors that happened to no other primate alive. Their hair started vanishing. Not thinning, not lightening, vanishing. Now here's what makes that strange. There are more than 500 species of primates on this planet. Gorillas, orangutans, baboons, macaques, gibbons, every single one of them kept its coat. Only one didn't. When evolution singles out one species that dramatically, there's always a brutal reason behind it. And in our case, the reason wasn't a predator. It was heat. Anthropologist Nina Jablonski has spent decades studying human skin, and her research points to a specific turning point. Our ancestors were becoming something almost no other animal on Earth becomes. They weren't ambush killers. They weren't fast. They became the most relentless hunters the planet had ever seen. Here's how it worked. Imagine being an antelope. You spot the humans. You sprint. You're built for speed, and you leave them behind easily. Minutes pass. You stop to cool down, then you look back. Still coming. You run again. They keep walking. An hour passes. Your muscles burn. Your body temperature climbs. You can't sweat the way they can, so every sprint costs you more than it costs them. 2 hours. 3, they never stop. Eventually, your body simply gives out. Not from a wound, from heat. This is called persistence hunting, and some human groups were still using it in the 20th century. But that strategy created a problem for the hunters themselves. Running for hours in direct sunlight generates enormous internal heat, and overheating kills faster than hunger, faster than thirst. Faster than almost anything. Fur makes that worse. It traps warmth against the skin, perfect if you live somewhere cold. Death sentence if you're chasing prey across open grassland at midday. So evolution made a trade. It gave up insulation, and it rewrote the human body. Millions of sweat glands appeared across the skin, more than almost any other mammal alive. Suddenly, sweating became our superpower. But there's a catch most people never think about. Sweat only cools you when it evaporates, and fur blocks evaporation. It soaks up the moisture and traps it against the skin, so the cooling never actually happens. Strip away the fur, the entire system finally works. Our ancestors traded a coat for a radiator, and that theory is beautiful. It's clean. The evidence supports it. Except, it creates a problem nobody could solve. Because if losing hair mattered that much to survival, why did one patch stay, and not a random patch? Look closely at where it sits. The jaw, the neck, directly over some of the largest blood vessels near the surface of the skin, one of the most efficient places on the entire body to release heat. Beard doesn't help you run longer. It doesn't help you sweat better. It does the opposite. It traps warmth in one of the worst possible locations, so the theory that explains almost everything about human hairlessness completely fails here. We'll freeze the scene and look at where humans did keep hair, because the pattern isn't random at all. The scalp stayed. That makes sense. Walking upright means the top of your head takes direct sun all day. Hair there works like built-in shade for the skull. Eyebrows stayed. That makes sense too. During a long hunt, sweat runs down your forehead straight toward your eyes. Eyebrows redirect it sideways. Eyelashes stayed. They catch dust and debris. Every one of those has a job. Then there's the lower face on men. That one has no job at all, no protection, no cooling, no survival benefit anyone could identify, which means whatever kept the beard around, it wasn't the same force that shaped the rest of the body. For decades, nobody could explain it. Then, one man challenged the entire framework, Charles Darwin. In 1871, he looked at the beard and admitted something remarkable. It didn't fit his own theory. Natural selection is supposed to preserve traits that help you survive. A trait with no survival advantage shouldn't persist that consistently across an entire sex of a species, but it did. Across every population, on every continent. So Darwin proposed something different. What if the beard never survived because it kept men alive? What if it survived because it helped them get chosen? That's sexual selection. Traits that spread not because they make you better at surviving, but because they make you more likely to reproduce. Think about a peacock's tail. In practical terms, it's a disaster. It's heavy, it's bright, it makes the bird slower and easier to spot. It exists anyway. Because peahens select for it, Darwin suspected the beard worked the same way, but he had no way to test it. Modern researchers do. Evolutionary researcher Barnaby Dixon has run study after study showing people photographs of the same men at different stages of facial hair. Clean shaven, light stubble, heavy stubble, full beard, and the pattern keeps repeating. Fuller beards get rated as more dominant, more mature, more socially formidable, more capable of holding status. But here's where the story gets genuinely strange, because this isn't just about appearance. Facial hair growth is driven by testosterone. More specifically, by the density of androgen receptors in the skin of the jaw and chin. That region has a dramatically higher concentration of those receptors than almost anywhere else on the body, which means a thick beard isn't decoration, it's data. It's a visible readout of hormonal activity that's been running under the skin for years. You can't fake it with effort. You can't build it in a gym. Either the biology produces it or it doesn't. Now zoom in on what that meant to an ancient human. There were no blood tests, no records, no way to measure anything about another person's body, but you could look at a man's face across a fire and get an instant read age range, maturity, hormonal profile, where he probably sat in the social order. A small group where you constantly had to size up allies, rivals, and strangers, often before a single word was spoken. That instant read was enormously valuable. Some researchers have also proposed a second possible benefit. The idea is that a thick beard forms a physical cushion over the jaw, offering some protection during physical conflict. It's an interesting hypothesis, but it's still debated, and the evidence is far from settled. What is clear is that two opposite forces were acting on the same body at the same time. One force stripped hair from almost every surface, because in the heat of the African grassland, insolation was killing us. The other force protected one specific patch. Because on that patch, hair wasn't fighting your biology, it was advertising it. Which is why the real answer to why do men have beards isn't about hair at all, it's about information. Overwhelming majority of human existence, long before language was precise, long before you could simply ask someone who they were, your face was already speaking for you. It was telling a story about you to every person who looked in your direction. You wanted it to or not, which brings us to something genuinely new. Millions of years ago, evolution asked one question: can this body survive the African sun? The answer erased almost every hair on the human body, except one. Today, before work, before school, before a date, millions of men erase it themselves in under 2 minutes. Others do the exact opposite. They spend months growing it out, shaping it, deliberately amplifying the same signal their ancestors never got to choose. And that's the part worth sitting with. For millions of years, that message was fixed. Your biology decided, and you displayed whatever it produced. You're the first humans with a choice. So next time you stand in front of a mirror, remember what you're actually looking at, not facial hair. One of the oldest messages evolution ever wrote, and you get to decide every single morning whether to send it.